Today's show is sponsored by the AirBnb Kickstart course. My wife and I started our first Airbnb here in the last year, and we've come to love the ability to earn more money than we would if we had a long-term rental. If you're interested in starting your Airbnb business with little money, scaling your Airbnb business, or just learning tricks about the industry in general, check out our Airbnb course at nextlevelincome.com/Airbnb. That's AIR, the letters BNB, and you'll get a 20% discount code. On today's show, we have Sean Pan. Sean is a hard money lender, a real estate investor, and a content creator. He has over 1 million followers on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. He's also the host of the Everything Real Estate Investing Show, where he interviews top investors and professionals, including yours truly, to shed light on what they do and how to help investors succeed in the industry.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to raise your income, investments, and life to the next level with your host, Chris Larson. Get your free copy of his book at nextlevelincome.com/book. Also, if you're an accredited investor, check out the Invest link to learn how to gain access to institutional quality real estate opportunities.
So Sean Pan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, it's great to see you again. Glad you're feeling better. Really excited to talk to you about a few things today. But before we do, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your background with the audience and how you got here.
Yeah. So, hey guys, my name is Sean Pan. I'm a real estate investor and hard money lender. I was from the Bay Area, but recently moved to Dallas, Texas. Before I got started with all this, I used to be an engineer, used to work full-time for a defense contracting company. But after a few years in that business, I realized that that's not where I wanted to be, and ended up here in real estate.
I love it. Well, we love engineers here on the show, and we love real estate on the show. So we got a lot in common. And I want to start. You have over 1 million followers on social media, and this is what's fun is I'm a little bit older than you, Sean. If people aren't watching, they might not realize that because I don't always act my age. But social media is something I've really had to learn how to figure out because I took a while to go on Facebook. I even took a while to in college when we had email to really kind of adopt it. Even though we were at Virginia Tech, we were one of the first campuses to have Ethernet, so we had technology very rapidly. But how do you start building an audience of 1 million? I mean, that seems incredible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chris, you're doing it yourself, right? You have this giant platform here, this podcast. So the same thing happened with me. I used to be a real estate investor, and when I was only investing as a flipper, I was only concerned about myself. So after doing that for a while, I realized this isn't what I want to do long-term, right? You want to provide more value. It's better to teach people, help other people. Absolutely. So I started my own podcast, doing that for 3.5 years. And then a couple months later, someone convinced me to start doing YouTube. I met my wife, who was my girlfriend back then, and we started these other online platforms together. In 2020, kind of like right before the pandemic hit, she started experimenting with TikTok, and her account actually blew up first. So she's at 500,000 or so on TikTok. And so for the longest time, I was kind of like in her shadow, seeing her Instagram blow up, her TikTok blow up, her YouTube even blow up. And so it wasn't until I actually went back to these conferences that I go to. So one of them is called FinCon. It's like a financial content creators conference. And suddenly you see all these young people, before it was all older folk like podcasters, bloggers, YouTubers. Now you have a lot of people who are still in college who are just like massive TikTok. And so I thought, wow, maybe I should get on it too. So really, it was just focused content creation in November of last year that skyrocketed account to 1 million. So, I mean, honestly, it was only 1 month, right? That blew my account up.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it a particular piece of content that you recall that really took you there?
Absolutely. So it was one viral video that hit like 12 million views. And it's a very simple concept too. It was basically just how if you make extra principal payments, then your loan will go down significantly, right? You're paying much less in interest, and you're also be paying it for 26 years instead of 30 years. And you only pay like $100 extra. So like a simple concept like that, but just delivered, I guess, better than other people. Yeah. Caught the algorithm and blew my channel up.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, we may have to talk more about that afterwards. So I'd Yeah. No, I mean, and in all seriousness, the big point is the goal of Next Level Income is to share, some of these concepts that to you and to me are simple. We've been talking about in some cases for decades, but people haven't heard yet, and they may not hear it from, the traditional financial gurus that are out there and do that.
Yeah.
So like me, you were an engineer, you weren't satisfied, with your career track. Let's go back to that first deal, Sean. Like what motivated you to become a real estate investor? And tell us about that first deal that got you onto this path.
So I was in real estate investing way before I bought my first property. I'm sure many people are like this, where they're interested in it, but they spend a couple of years like analyzing or doing research, learning. So that was definitely my case. I really got interested in real estate investing back in maybe 2011 or so during my first internship at that defense contract company.
Yeah.
And again, like the job itself was pretty chill. I enjoyed working there. It was fun talking with my coworkers, but it was just sad that people who were my father's age, who were working the same position as me, would tell me these stories of how they wish they did things differently in their lives. Like they wish they took more risks with their career instead of just staying in the company. They would jump around, or they had opportunities to try new businesses, but they were too scared to take the entrepreneurship route because they wanted that steady paycheck. But then here they are 30 years later, kind of like sad that the company has all the power, right? If they don't want to give you a raise, then they don't give you a raise, or they take away your bonuses. It was basically a sad place. I didn't want to see myself 30 years from now. So I figured I was young. I have a chance to do whatever I want to do. And so I started learning about financial freedom, about different businesses you could try. And actually, I did try different businesses. Like I tried doing a startup with some of my friends. That didn't work out so well. I tried selling selfie sticks on Amazon. That also didn't work out so well.
Wait, selfie, yeah.
Yeah. But ultimately, what I found was that real estate seemed to be a very stable business model. There are people from very different backgrounds who are all successful with real estate because it's a very scientific and formulaic process. And, as engineers, we like that there's rules. Unlike, creative, like I'm not very good at writing essays because it's so creative. There's so much interpretation. Whereas for engineering, it's like exact science. So the same way with real estate. Like, okay, if you can buy a property that cash flows from day one in a very stable market, then chances are you won't lose money, because even if the market turns on you, as long as you have a good population that will continue renting at the same rates, then you can withstand any of these downturns in the market. Yeah. So the thought process. So then flash forward a few years later, when I'm an engineer, I've been working for a while, I've been saving and investing. And I said, finally, let's get into real estate. So my property was actually a house hack. So, long story short, I used to be from the Bay Area. I moved to LA. My mom wanted to retire and move to Taiwan. And I was like, no, I want to be a real estate investor. Let's hold on to these properties here. I don't want you to just sell it to some random stranger. So I actually bought my mom's home thinking that it would be a rental property. I happened to have a job opportunity that would move me back to the Bay Area. So instead of renting it out, I ended up living in that property. And then all of my other friends who were also coming from Los Angeles needed a place to. So I said, hey, just live with me. So I rented out all the rooms. And awesome. Of course, when you rent it out piecemeal like that, you can still rent out each individual room at a price relative to the market, but combined, it will cover your entire expenses. Yeah. So that was my first quote unquote investment. But the real first was my first property that I bought over in Jacksonville, Florida. So simple rental property.
So hang on a second. So you're living in California and you buy a property in Jacksonville, Florida, all the way across the country.
Yeah, across the country. I mean, honestly, even with an engineer salary, there's no way I could buy a second Bay Area property.
Right.
Wouldn't happen. So a property in Florida is more affordable. So yeah, those were my first real estate investments. One house hack and one rental property across the country.
So that rental property, I assume you had a local property manager that was handling that for you and doing that.
Absolutely. There's no way I would want to handle or manage a property from across the country. The way I see it, you're going to pay your property manager 10% around of the gross rents every single month. Yeah. So either you're going to pay that to someone else or you're going to pay that to yourself. And for me, that's not a job that I want. And I'm not willing to pay myself 10% of that rent for that work.
There we go. Yeah, I love it. No, it took me a little while to come to that conclusion with some of my properties, but I came to the same conclusion as well. And I know we share a couple of different things on our journey, and this is one of them. My first property was a house hack too. I had actually, what did I have? I had 2 townhouses side by side, 6 total units, and rented out each 6 of those rooms, which was like you said, you get a premium when you do it that way. It's a little more work, But, when people are like, well, Chris, you started 20 some years ago. Like, I can't do it. You're showing, Sean, you did the exact same thing, you know, uh, you know, 15 years after I did almost. So
Yeah. And the thing
it's
is,
certainly possible.
you can just rent them to your friends. So it's not even that
Yeah.
scary, right?
Yeah.
Your friends aren't likely to screw you over. People I've had on my podcast, they ran out to random strangers on Craigslist and they still have a great time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
that might throw a couple of people off, but yeah. So if somebody's listening, they're like, yeah, Sean, that's great, but I don't want to do that. Like, what's your advice to somebody like that?
I don't know. For me, it was a really great way to get started, right?
Yeah.
Like investing, like saving is hard enough already with all these expenses you have. So when you house hack, you dramatically reduce your expenses. And so it was really cool because, the Bay Area is known to be one of the most expensive places to live. But because we house hacked, like it was really no difference from living anywhere else with a very low cost of living.
Yeah. No, I think you got to get creative. And I have some coaching clients in California, and we just explore different strategies than if you're in Ohio, right? Or, if you're in Jacksonville, Florida, although Florida has been blowing up, as I'm sure you've happily noticed here if you have property down there here over the last year. So how did you find that property in Jacksonville?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that I did was I targeted the cities first. It wasn't targeting the properties, it was targeting the markets first.
So top down. Love this.
Top down,
Yep.
right? Yeah. So like the most important part for me, at least, is when you're getting into real estate, especially like out of state real estate investing, you need to understand the markets because that's more important than the individual properties. The markets will determine your growth, your appreciation potential, all that stuff. So I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that, but basically, once you find your target market, the next step is to find your team. So for me, I started for team members, most specifically the real estate agent who can help me, who can kind of give me the lay of the land, show me, okay, these are good neighborhoods for renting out properties. These are good neighborhoods for people who want to buy and live in, all that kind of stuff. So I actually went on websites like Bigger Pockets, and I went on the forums. And I just typed in like this area, who can tell me like zip code breakdowns. And there are actually a lot of very friendly real estate agents who do go on Bigger Pockets. They lurk on the forums. And they're willing to help you. So from there, you just call.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just call them and you find the realtors that actually, drive with you for one. Some people talk too much. Some people don't talk enough. And some people will tell you the wrong things, right? Some people will talk about, oh, this beautiful school, this beautiful fence. And it's like, I don't care. I'm an investor. So once you find that, then you find the good property manager. And honestly, like once I had that team set up, then it was like, all right, I'm ready to go. Let's just start looking at properties. And so my agent just started sending me deals. And even though they're on the MLS, they were still decent. I understand that for your very first deal, there's no need to be super greedy and a crazy home run. I think like when you're first getting started, just like get started, right? Buy a deal that makes sense because there's so much to learn through that process. And then once you're first deal, maybe the second deal, you can get a little bit more creative and then a little bit more fancy, a little bit more rehab work needs to be done. So take it step by step.
I love that. I call it the Moneyball approach, right? So, don't get up, don't try to swing for the fences, your first time at bat. Get up, hit singles, hit doubles, be consistent, buy a property that's a nice, solid deal. And I think what you really said, Sean, that's the most important is learn from that experience. I always say, hey, if you're wading into an area, it's way better to partner with somebody, not make a mistake, learn all you can, even if you don't make a profit, so that the next deal, can be profitable. So I think two amazing lessons that you just mentioned right there.
Yeah.
So you're working in the Bay Area, you're working for a defense contractor, you start your investing career. When did you make the transition from, part-time investor to full-time investor, and how did you end up in Dallas?
Yeah. So again, it's a pretty long story, but sometime after I started buying these out-of-state rental properties, I started hanging out with a lot of real estate investors at these different meetup groups. And a lot of people in the Bay Area, they actually don't invest out of state, but they flip in California. So the way I see it is with real estate investing, it may not make sense to do like long-term buy and holds in the Bay Area because the rents to price ratio doesn't quite make sense. Like you're gonna lose money every single month. But flipping houses in the Bay Area is very profitable if done right. A lot of people I know are making millions of dollars every single year flipping houses. So naturally, I got interested and I started flipping houses as well in the Bay Area. Okay. And after my first few flips, I made more money flipping houses than my base salary at my full-time job. So then I would sit at my full-time job, 40 hours, just thinking, why am I here? Like, this is a waste of time. I need to do something different. There's also some differences. Like I was like a contractor uh, it's a complicated situation. Like they had me on assignment in Northern California, even though I was a SoCal employee. So they had some expectations for me to go back to SoCal. The contract finished. I was like, I like the Bay Area a lot. I have a lot of friends here. You know, I started dating my now wife. I was like, there's really no reason for me to go back to California. So that's basically when I said, okay, time to cut ties. Let's do real estate investing full time.
All right.
Now I'll make a quick transition here. I did real estate investing, quote unquote, full time, but because I didn't have real daily systems of finding new deals, I ended up just not doing much with my time. And again, that's when I kind of poured the content creation side. I'm like, let's add some more value if I'm not doing things on a daily basis.
And this was just for the audience timeline. About when was this?
This was around late 20.
Okay, so this was just 2-3 years ago.
Exactly. So about late 2019, I left my full-time job as an engineer. I was doing real estate investing full-time. But then, I ended up doing content creation a lot more. But by doing a lot of content creation, I got approached by my hard money lender. And they said, Sean, you're referring us so much business. Why don't you work with the hard money lender? And I thought, it makes sense because it's synergistic with what I'm doing anyway. I'm talking about real estate investing. I'm doing deals myself. I'm already referring business. Might as well get paid to refer more. And so I ended up started working for a hard money lending company, and I've been there now for 2+ years. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride.
Now wait, because you came off a really steady job, 2019. Yep. Was there a period of fear and uncertainty when the pandemic hit, and you're like, did I make the wrong choice?
A little bit, yes. So I realized that when the pandemic hit, I was starting my hard money lending business, right? So I didn't really have a solid book of business. Yeah. And so I didn't have that consistent income that I would have had with a full-time job. And in the meantime, I saw my mates who were the ones I house hacked with, and they were engineers, and they didn't have to go to work anymore, right? They were working from home, getting paid.
Like I could still be getting paid. I'd be home doing my.
Exactly. I was like, wow, I could have done that. But, I'm glad it worked out because that gave me some time to figure out what I wanted to do. I tried many different things during the pandemic as well. But then, flash forward 1 year later, I'm making way more money doing hard money loans than I did as an engineer because it's commission based. So anyways, it all worked out for the best. But yeah, there was definitely some fear during the pandemic. But I do have to say this. During the pandemic, my rental properties did not fail me. And that gave me consistent income during that entire journey.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, right? Because it was a scary period. I know I looked at my wife Q2 2020 and I said, between our med device business and real estate, I was like, there's no surgeries and I don't know if we're gonna get paid rent. So it is a testament to how stable the industry is, especially in the residential space. And in the intro here, I'm going to have to update it because as we speak, you're increasing the size of your portfolio over 20%, Sean. So now you do hard money loans. You were doing flips. Tell us about how you've grown your portfolio and kind of where's your portfolio now?
Yeah, so portfolio has grown. So I've kind of moved out of just Jacksonville. We've moved to different markets in Georgia and Texas. And then of course, I got married. So when we got married, we combined our portfolios as well. Thank you.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And then of course we started working together. We started buying more properties together. And yeah, we're in escrow right now for a 7-property portfolio. Basically a seller just wants to offload their properties and move on with their life. And so there's a lot of cool things happening. I think it's just slowly growing, right? Like we're making money from our content creation side, we're making hard money loans, and just using that to then buy other assets. Like we're not just buying real estate, we're buying stocks, crypto, et cetera.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's important, especially people want to know, like, hey, Chris, what's this year going to hold? Last year was amazing for residential and multifamily real estate. We're getting longer and longer into the cycle. I think I tell people diversify. Make sure you have income producing assets that are coming in. You want high quality income producing assets with some diversification that can hedge against not only inflation, but also, any downturns, if they may occur. You're in Dallas. What other country, you talk about Dallas, Florida, Georgia. What other parts of the country do you like right now for investing, Sean?
Yeah. So, again, we are also in California. Like I didn't sell my area property because I believe in the Bay Area.
Sorry, I left out California. Yeah, and California.
Yeah, but we keep that one as Airbnb right now. So I think it's like we don't really want to go to different markets right now because finding the market and creating the team is the most work. After that's done, then the rest is pretty easy. Just find a good deal and you buy it. So we're not really in that phase right now. Instead, now that we've moved from the Bay Area to Texas, our plan was to do more active real estate investing. So one is maybe do flips here in Dallas. And or second is to do renovations and then convert them into short-term rentals or midterm rentals. Yeah. So those are our strategies going forward, at least for 2020.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because when you start buying properties, it was easier to make the numbers work. A lot of people come to me today and they're like, Chris, I can't, like, I'm looking at this property and the numbers don't work. They look at short-term rentals. They look at co-living options. They look at more what I would call like operational real estate. We're doing the same thing with car washes, with mobile home parks. Senior housing, I think, is another opportunity for that. Something that has an operational component that you can exploit inefficiencies. And we love short-term rentals too. My wife and I have two here on our property, and they're the profits are 10x what it would be if you're just doing a long-term rental, for instance. So I think that's a fantastic option here. So Sean, we've covered a lot of awesome stuff here. What does the future hold for you and your business?
Yeah, so I think like we mentioned before, we are trying to do more of that short-term rental stuff, more active real estate investing. Like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, we are also content creators. So we have a YouTube channel, podcast, and TikTok, Instagram. The beauty is it's like a nice cycle, right? So the more we do, the more content we create, the better real estate investing we can do. Because now we can talk to real estate agents, we can talk to other people and show them our profile. Like when we show them our presence, we are actually legit, quote unquote, legitimate people. We're not just some random people who are, might be wasting their time. So like all these things kind of synergize together. So that's why we're more interested in doing active real estate investing starting from this year. Now, that being said, with the current economic crisis and I see stocks going down, our interest rates are increasing, it does seem a little bit scary. So I think we'll take it slowly. We're not just going to start doing like 10 flips at once. Take it one at a time, do projects, do them right. We're lucky that we do have a lot of liquid funds, so we might not use as much leverage as some people might want to use. Just keep it safer.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Keep the leverage reasonable. Nassim Taleb in the Black Swan, he says, don't blow up. And that's some terrific advice for investors if you're listening here. And if people want to follow you, Sean, I know we have everything in the show notes here, but what's the best way to find you? Let's say people want a hard money loan, or they're looking to do a flip. Tell us a little bit more about how people can get in touch with you to follow you, but also if they're interested in working with you.
Yeah, so I think the best way to follow me is through Instagram. You can find me at Sean Loves Real Estate because I answer every DM that comes through Instagram. You can also send me an email at sean@everythingrei.com. That's SEAN at everythingrei.com. And I do have a website at everythingrei.com and the podcast, The We Love Real Estate Show.
Awesome. Well, Sean, it's been a blast talking to you again. We wish you all the best here in this year. And thanks for sharing your inspirational story with our audience.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.